Welcome back to day 11 of making a VR game. Today we're going to give the player the ability to hide behind walls because as of now, this enemy, with the work we did on day 10, he can see the player, but he can see through walls. So we need to prevent him from seeing through a wall. So for example, if I had a box, we need to add colliders to the walls here. But if I'm hiding behind a wall like I am here, this is the VR main. So here I am hiding behind the wall, and this guy comes in to the house. He's not going to see me because I'm hiding behind the wall. So you see the red lines there. He's checking, but he can't see the player because he's hiding behind the wall. Now, if the player were to come out from behind the wall, you'll see that he does see him, and he raises his weapon up, and he's ready to attack. So today is adding vision to see through walls or not see through walls. And we're also going to give the enemy the ability to raise his gun up and point it at the player. And it even has a muzzle flash on it. So here you'll see he's pointing the gun at the player because he's visible. But as always, if the robber is coming into our house and we're hiding somewhere, he's not going to see us because we're hiding behind a wall. Even though his cone of vision here, we're inside of it and he can see us. But the red line, the Raycast, is hitting the wall, and it knows that this guy can't see the player because the player's hiding behind a wall. But watch out if the player comes out, because that enemy is going to raise that gun up and take a couple of shots. Now, in this tutorial series, we've been using the models, the simple models from Synty Studios, and they have noticed our work here, and they want to give away a few codes to you guys. So we have 10 codes to give away from Synty Studios. I'm going to give away one pack in each one of my videos for the next 10 days. So starting with day 11, we're doing a giveaway on this video, and to enter into the giveaway, you just have to put a comment down below. Now today we're giving away Simple House Interiors, which is right here. I have 3 codes for Simple House Interiors. So 3 of these are going to be given away. That's what I'm using right here to do a lot of the inside of our house. So I've got 3 codes for this to give away. One of them is given away today. To enter the giveaway, you just have to put a comment down below, say whatever you want, put a screenshot to your game, or say hi, or say I just want free stuff. I don't care. You got to put a comment down below to enter into the giveaway. I'm giving away a copy of Simple House Interiors, and actually I should say Synty Studios is giving away a copy of Simple House Interiors in today's video. That means there's 2 more codes for Simple House Interiors. In the next 10 days, we're going to have giveaways for Simple Apocalypse. I've got 1 code for Simple Apocalypse coming up. We've got a code for Simple Fantasy Interiors. So that's this one right here. So really cool looking fantasy game for interiors. We got Simple Office Interiors. We got a code for this one. For all of your office needs in the game, we got a code for Simple Airport. We have a code for Simple Items. This is another one that I'm already using in this pack. Because our axe, for example, I see it right here, and the chainsaw, that comes from out of Simple Items. I've got a pack of this to give away. We've got 1 code for the Simple Shop Interiors. So all of the items that we need for shop. So 3 of the house codes to give away, 1 of the Apocalypse, 1 of the Fantasy, 1 of the Simple Office, 1 of the Simple Airport, 1 of the Simple Items, and 1 of the Simple Shop. Thank you to Synty Studios. I appreciate that myself because I want to use their models in my game and in my tutorial. But you know, if I'm saying, you know, hey, go use this and go use that, I like the fact that they're giving back to the community as well. So here's another example. I've said, go use Text Mesh. Text Mesh Pro, this is a really great asset. So I appreciate that. Thank you, Synty Studios, and thank you guys for entering into the giveaway. Like I said, today we're giving away a copy of the Simple Studios house interiors. So just put a comment down below, and for the next 10 days, we're going to have a giveaway in each day. You're just going to have to put a comment into the video to enter in the giveaway every single day. Enough about that. Let's get on to making this guy work. So on day 10, we got this trigger added to the guy's eyesight. That's this triangle. And that lets us know what he is seeing. But there's one problem with that we haven't addressed, and that's what happens if the player or if whatever he's looking at is standing behind a wall, because in that case he shouldn't see it. So for example, right now he's looking through this wall, and because the trigger's going through onto this side, anything that is inside of this trigger is gonna say that we can see it, and we can't because it's behind this wall. And so if the player was to move back there, here he is. The robber can't see him, but right now he can, because there's nothing preventing him from seeing through the wall. So what we're going to have to do is do a raycast. And so if he detects the player, then we're going to do a raycast. And if the raycast hits the player, then we'll know that he is visible. However, if the raycast hits something else, like a collider on this wall, if we were to we still need to add a box collider or a mesh collider, then the raycast is going to hit this, and we know that the player is not visible. So the script is going to look like this, and the script I'm going to edit is on the collision robber eyesight. It's the robber eyesight script that we wrote on day 10, and the changes I've done here is I've added a private game object player, so we always know what the player's game object is, and we find that by its tag of player. And I know that there's only one game object out here that has this tag of player, so it's safe to say that when I run that script, this is going to be the game object that it finds. And then whenever there's a on trigger enter, for now we're just going to check to see if it's the player. So we're going to say if the other .game object is equal to player, which is this game object, then we know that the player is within the trigger. Now we're going to need to do a raycast. Now to raycast, we need to calculate a direction. So we raycast in a ray, which needs a direction, not a point. So the difference between those would be, for example, debug.drawLine. DrawLine needs a start and an end vector, whereas drawRay needs a start and a direction, and it goes for infinity unless you define a shorter length. But a array needs when we do a raycast, that needs a vector 3 start position and a direction vector. So to determine the direction vector, we do the player's position minus this game object's position, and that gives us the direction of the player. So now we have the variable called relative player position, which could be renamed something like player direction. But we got the relative player position, and then we're going to define a raycast hit, because a raycast hit saves the information that comes back from a raycast. So on the Unity scripting API, we could look at raycast hit, and it's a structure used to get information back from a raycast, and here's all the information it can get. But in order to, when we shoot a ray, in order to get any information back, we're going to need a variable called raycast hit to save all that information. So we've defined one right now, it's empty. And then I do a debug.draw ray so we can see in the editor where this ray is. But right now the hit's empty, so we need to populate it with something or try to. So we're going to do if physics.raycast, because physics.raycast is a Boolean value, as you can see here, just below my mouse cursor in blue. It says bool, and that's a Boolean value of true or false. The true or false is, did the ray hit something? So if true, it's going to go ahead and continue, but if it's false, it didn't hit anything, it's just going to jump to here and keep going with the script. So if we do a raycast and it's true, now we want to raycast from the player's, or from the transform this game object's position to in the direction of the player, which we've already determined, and if whatever it hits, we're going to send into this hit, which is a raycast hit structure. And now we can say if the hit collider game object is equal to player, which is this guy, then debug.log, I can see the player. We know that he can see the player because the player is inside of the trigger. And then we've done a raycast, and the raycast has hit the player's collider, and it's checking the game object, and we know that the raycast is hitting the player's game object. So that means that the player is within sight, and now we'll go ahead and set the eyesight tag. Now to check this out and to see if it works, I'm going to hit play, and we'll go back into the scene view, and we're going to see him run in, and he shot the ray, but nothing was logged. And so this is just one of those things with Unity or any 3D application where you're going to have to just kind of test these things out. In this case, this trigger right here is able to see the player, because the player, we have this character controller, and it does show this green capsule, but it's not a collider. You know, it's not a box collider or a capsule collider. So the tag can see it, or this trigger can see the player, and we were able to get it to log into the console that the tag of the object. So it essentially, what I'm trying to say here is the character controller was seen by this guy's trigger, but when we're doing this raycast and it's saying the hits collider, there's no collider on this object, and this is not returning anything. So in order to get that to work, I'll actually have to add a capsule collider and make it a trigger. I'm just going to use the same exact right now it's this circle up here, so I'm going to match the height, radius, and Y offset from the character controller. That way they're just to an exact match. And I can't see it because it's the same color and the same shape as the character controller, but it does have a trigger. And now you're going to see when this guy runs in and raycasts on it, he says, I can see the player because a collider actually exists there. A trigger. So now we know that he could see the player. So if I clear the console out and I'm standing in the living room and the bad guy runs in, it says I can see the player, and then if I move him into the bedroom, and I do remember I'm going to have to add mesh collider or a box collider is probably okay for the wall. I see the raycast, and I seen another raycast, and he does say he could see the player. I have a box collider here. Let's see what happens. Here he comes. Alright, well, he didn't logged that he could see the player there. And there he tried again. I could see the player were probably some old messages. So we can see that he can't see the player because he's hiding behind a wall. So if we let's bring the player over here into the doorway. And I was looking at this on day 10, but we might want to make this cone a little bit more wide because I think standing here we should trigger that. It didn't look like it was logging it at first, but like there, it's not logging it. But it is. I think it's because it's just really close to the edge. Let me make this bigger. And it's only happening on a trigger enter. So we probably want to update that to trigger stay, because if I'm inside of the cone and I come out from behind a wall, it should keep checking. But for now, if the player comes into his view, we should see him log. Okay, I moved this from on trigger enter into on trigger stay, so that it happens while a trigger is staying. That way, if I'm hiding behind a wall, there we go. We've seen a lot more Raycast now. And yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and make that a wider cone of vision. Go to scale here and let's take it up to maybe 4. We'll just have to play around with the game and see how it works. So none of those Raycasts seen the player. Obviously can't see the player right now. But if I walk out from behind this door, he should see me. And yeah, there we go. I can see the player. I can see the player. I can see the player. And then if I'm out here, I should get away from that. And I think that's fine, because here, he shouldn't see me. I'm kind of off to the side of him. And if I get over here, there we go. I can see the player. I'm now visible to him. Okay, so now we know when the player's visible, and it accounts for hiding behind walls or hiding behind different objects. Now the next thing I want to do is have a have a game over. If the robber sees you, he's going to shoot you, and it's going to be game over. So we need to give him a gun. And for a gun, I'm going to use the simple military asset pack. And don't forget about the giveaway that we're doing for the Synty Studios assets. So the simple military weapon comes in a prefab with all of the weapons in it. I'm going to just drag this one in here. And we could we could pick which gun we want out of here. I think I'm just gonna give him a pistol. But there's a lot of really cool weapons in here. The assault rifle, flashbang grenade minigun, rifle RPG shotgun, smoke bomb. Shotgun would probably work. But let's just start with the pistol. I'm going to drag the pistol object out. That's going to break the prefab. I could delete the prefab. We just have the game object with the mesh renderer on it. This is going to need to be a child of the hand, which is under the shoulder. I guess he's right-handed. So there's the hand right. Let's move the pistol to the hand right and reset the position to 0. It's almost lined up. We'll just move it a bit like this. And I think that's going to work. Let's hit play and see if he... Hold on, get back here. Let's see what it looks like. He's holding it sideways. That's not good. We're going to need to rotate the X by 90. Alright, let's stop it again and F for focus. We got a 90-degree rotation on the X. And move it down so it looks like it's in his hand. Alright, is he running with the gun okay? Okay, this is looking pretty dangerous. We just got to make him shoot the gun if he sees us. So, the first thing I'm going to do is make the gun shoot effect, I guess. That's going to be flash at the end of the barrel. That's going to be a particle effect. So there's a lot of really great particle effects on the asset store. So for the muzzle flash, so I went to particle systems on the asset store and I searched for muzzle. And there's a lot of stuff to look through. I like the JMO particle effects. A lot of the a couple of the packs I like. I think I'm going to use this War FX one, but there's one called, let me import this real quick, but there's one called I like all the JMO ones. I like the FX mega packs. And so here there's an editor. I don't think I want to edit anything. So I'm going to deselect all that. And so I'm just left with the War FX folder. And then there's an effects and effects mobile. I don't want to miss out on anything. But if the mobile are just duplicates that are lighter, then that's all I want. So I'm going to use the effects mobile. And there's a desktop folder. There's an editor. We probably need these meshes. The desktop, I think, is for the regular assets, and I just want the mobile version. The scripts will probably need, and there's some shaders in there, and a spawn system. That should work out. And another FX pack that I might bring in while I'm getting particle effects is any of these JMO ones, like I said, are really nice. The cartoon FX packs. So I grabbed the War FX there, but another one I want to bring in is Mega FX Mega Pack or something like that. These ones are really cool by Onlux Software. So FX Mega Pack. And let me just import this. So I got a couple different things to, a few different material packages to look through. Now same thing here. I'm just gonna make sure I got texture scripts. There's a scene. I don't need that. And there's the prefabs and the materials. I guess in the prefabs is where I could search for mobile or not, but it doesn't look like this one has a mobile version, so we'll just import it. Alright, and then for the muzzle flash, let me check into the FX JMO Assets War FX folder. Alright, and then I'm just going to look through here and find there's the muzzle flashes with 4 planes. There's an FPS one. I like the four planes better because we don't know what angle the player might be. Well, the gun's pretty much going to be pointing at the player. But we'll use one of these. We'll just pick one or the other. 4 planes or sprites. I guess 4 planes is going to be fine. So this particle effect, I'm going to move to be a child of the pistol. So here it is, and let's move it to be a child of the pistol so that we can put it right at 0, 0, 0. 0 out the rotation, and we'll move it into place right there at the end of the barrel. And then it's just a matter of calling the particle system start and stop. I can see it set the looping. I don't want to do that because... And I don't want it to play on awake. That's just going to start playing. And I think I'll control the gun through the robber controller. So I'm going to open that up now. And I'm going to have a... I guess just for convenience, I'm going to make this a public particle system. I'll call that particle system gun flash. And I believe particle system is the right thing that I'm looking for here. I'll check the scripting API for particle system to make sure. But here is the particle system, and in the scripting API I could, yeah, this is what I'm looking for. I should be able to check if it's playing and play and stop it. So now that I have the particle system, I'm just gonna have a function, I guess. Let's say a public. We'll have it void for now, and it'll be shoot gun. We'll just call it shoot gun. And when you shoot the gun, I'm gonna want to make the gun flash dot play. Alright, so it should play the particle effect when you call shoot gun. And so I guess what I'll do here is when the player eyesight sees the player, we're going to add a little bit of a delay. This is probably going to call another function, but for now we can just try to call the, let's say, robber controller dot shoot gun. And we should see, maybe we should see the flash play whenever he sees us. But first I'm going to have to populate the flash here by the gun flash particle system here. And I can see that the reason why it's still going here is we got all these other ones looping. Now this light is going to be a dynamic light. That's probably okay because we're using vertex lit anyways, and I don't want this looping. I should be able to select these all at once, I believe. Nope. And then we don't want to play on awake. Okay, so nothing's looping and nothing plays on awake. Let's hit play and see what happens. We shouldn't see that flash. Until he sees the player. Here we go. Let me go. Well, let me just grab the player and move him over here. Yeah, I seen it play the... And I guess it's playing the particle effect for a second. So I'm coming into the emission and changing the rate over time to 1 instead of 10. And let's see what that looks like here. Okay, so I guess a rate over time. Now, I'm not the best particle guy, so don't take my word for it here. I'm just doing the best I can with what I know, but it looks like changing the rate over time to 2 is getting a... that's getting at a single gun flash. And I guess the guy might shoot his gun a couple times. We could go up to 4 and I guess then he's taking a couple of gunshots. Okay, so if he runs into the house and he sees the player, we see him taking a couple of shots there. I'm going to try that again. Let's get outside of his field of view. Okay, now we just need to make the guy point his arm at the player, and we're gonna do that the same exact way that we point his head. So again, when I look at the animations here, they were the body down. Now these were just poses, and we're using the body right and the body left for turning him. Well, we got handgun idle, and that looks just like a pose. And then we got handgun reload, which is an animation there. We got handgun shoot. Okay, so the handgun idle is going to be the pose. So we're going to need to move him into this pose. And again, we're going to do that on the animator layer with the body control. Now we already have a body control. We're going to go ahead and add a new layer, and I'm going to call this one arm control. And it's going to be used the same way as this one is, with a mask, and it's set to override. And then we're going to need to define a mask for that. And if I remember right, this Simple People already had a mask for the body, head, upper body. But I want one just for the arms, I guess. So I'm going to go back into my animations folder, masks, and I'm going to create a new avatar mask. And this will be called arms only. And I call it arms, but really I just need it to be one arm, the right arm. But in case we need to do something with the other arm, I guess I'll leave it as is. So I got just the right and the left arm, and that's what I'm going to set up for the arm control avatar mask. Arms only. And then on here, just like with this one, we're going to go into a none. So by default, it's doing nothing. And the arms would be doing whatever the animation, idle animation is doing, for example. And then from there, we're going to make a new state that's going to be pistol idle. And the motion there is the handgun idle. Now on the last one, I think we set the speed to 0 on a pose. So it just doesn't play because it's just a pose. But we're going to have to set the weight. And we're also going to have to set a transition into this. To go to the right and the left, we use the bool. So I'll use a bool here and I'll say, I guess I'll call it gun ready or gun idle. Gun idle is good. But I should have a consistent naming convention here so I don't get confused. I'll say gun idle. And then there's going to be a transition off into some other states. And another way to create these states is if you have the animator up here and I have my animations ready, which is down here in the simple people animations. And then there's a handgun shoot and handgun reload. We'll call those gun shoot and gun reload. I don't know if we probably won't use the reload. So we'll probably just get into the 3 animations here, the idle, the shooting. And after that, it's probably going to go back to idle. And so if we're going to transition into the gun idle. If the gun idle is set to true, and I'm going to want to transition back. Probably going to want to transition to shooting, and after shooting, come back to the gun idle. And the condition here, I probably need to set these up later, but right now I guess I'll just throw a false. And for shooting, I'm going to try a trigger. We might make it a bool later. But if we get a trigger of the gun shoot, we're going to go ahead and play gun shoot animation. And then this one's just going to use the has exit time, which means that when the shoot animation is done playing, it's going to exit this animation. It's going to come back into gun idle automatically. So now that the animator is set up, we're going to have to figure out a way to control the weight here. But we've already done that with the body control layer, so it shouldn't be too difficult. So if we set the weight layer on the second layer to 1, that should put his gun into full idle position. No, I'm not seeing anything here. So we never set the bool to true, so it's still sitting in idle. So we need to say my anim dot set bool, and we need to set the bool called gun idle, I believe is what it's called, and we're going to set that to true. And we need to remember we'll have to set it to false later, but if that's set to true, we should be able to go into gun idle. And then if we turn the weight up from there, That's what we should see. Now, obviously, everything's out of order here. We need to put the gun up into position. And I can't figure out why I move it in and nothing happens, and when I move it out, it shoots. We'll figure it out. But he is raising his arms up. The next thing I'm going to do is just make him rotate to look at the player, because then he's going to be pointing at the player. And we already know how to do that. We already set that here. We're just going to have to turn this into a function so that I can call, so I can say rotate the player, and it says okay, and it does this. For the moment, I'm going to make a private bool called rotate to player, and then if rotate to player is true, we'll go ahead and run this block of code, which turns him before he shoots the gun, let's the gun flash is going to come later. And first he's going to need to rotate to the player, and then he's going to need to raise his gun, and after that he's going to need to shoot. And to make things easier, I'm going to move VR main. I'm going to get the player out here where he's in the view, so we can know what's going on. Okay, I said rotate the player true, but he's not actually rotating to the player. He's rotating to the point of interest that we had set over here. Here it is. He's looking at corner of room. So I'm gonna need to tell him to put that right here. And there he is, pointing his gun at me. Okay, we need to get the this function, which rotate to player. So this actually is not rotating to player. It's rotating to the point of interest. I'm going to get this script fixed, and I'll be right back. Okay, so simple, small change. I added a private transform look target. And then here I said if the look target is not equal to null. So anytime a game object is assigned to this transform variable, it'll be true, and he will rotate to look at the look target. So if we don't want him to do any rotation, we just have no game object here. And then if we want him to rotate to something, we'll throw it into the look target variable, and he'll go ahead and rotate to that. So when we get here, we have this rotate the player equals true. I actually don't want to do that. The rotate the player could just go away, because we want him to rotate, but we probably want him to rotate to a lot of things, not just the player. So that's why I've replaced the rotate to player with a look target object, and now we need to set the look target. So we can say look target is equal to the player dot transform, but I don't have player on this script yet, so I need to get it. The Robber Eyesight has it. Over here, so we get the private game object player, and when it starts, it's going to find that, and now I got access to the player's game object, so I could say set the look target to player dot transform, and then I need to set this look target to null at some point. So what I could do actually is, I'm not sure yet, but I could say if the player is looking at, if the rotation is complete, then set look target to null so that it stops doing this. That would mean he actually turns his body back because the weight would go back to 0. So if he has the look target, that means he's going to be rotating his body somewhere. That means that the weight value on layer 1 of the animation layer is going to be at some value. So we have given a look target, which is the player. We're doing everything else here that should make him raise the gun up, and when he sees me, I'm not sure what he was doing there. He went between a couple. He turned between a few different points there. He sees the player, he raises the gun up. So one thing we need to do is, it was only doing this if the remaining distance was 0. And we need to get it out of there because at any time we set this, we want him to look at it. Okay, so my script is not, it's doing this stupid thing where the robber's snapping between these left and right positions. And it turns out it's because of the Y value of the player. If the player was all the way down at 0, then you'll see that he's completely smooth and looks directly at the position. We need to get this. We need to get the player's Y value out of this position value. So we got the look target dot position. We're actually going to need a new vector 3, or we're just going to want the X and the Z position there. So we're going to say vector 3 target is equal to look target dot position dot X 0 and look target dot position dot Z. That way it's just I'm a mess today. That way it's just using the X and the Y, and the position is going to always be 0 for the Y. That needs to be a new vector 3, so we're going to say new vector 3 is going to be this. Now, if this game gets going up and down the Y-axis, we'd have to figure that out. But for now, everybody's on the ground. This is determined by the position on the ground. So we're going to use the target. And so the look target position, we actually want to use the target dot position there. And not target dot position, but just target. All right, so now that it's calculating where to look at, without taking into account the Y value, we should see that guy look right at us at all times. And there should be no strange snapping around. So if I click the player and move him, and there we go. All right, that is going to wrap up today's episode. Be day 11 because we've had a lot of bugs, problems today. I think that's normal game development, at least in my experience. It usually isn't a great, smooth sailing adventure. You run into all kinds of problems and fun stuff along the way. But we got it working. He's raising the gun up, and he's tracking the player if the player's within sight. And then if the player's behind the wall, well, right now he's still looking at him because we haven't handled what happens when the player goes behind a wall. But by default, he doesn't know that the player's there because the player's hiding behind the wall. And then when he comes out from behind a wall, that's when he sees him and raise up the gun, and we could do a shoot. So I'll put him over in the bathroom. And we will come back for day 12, and I don't know, maybe around 30 days, 1 month to get this game done. And that's not bad because we're working on it about 1 hour a day. So if you can work on a game for 1 hour a day and release it in 30 days, that's pretty good. So, all right, things are going good. Thank you for watching. We got more videos coming up right here. Don't forget about the giveaway. Put a comment down below, and good luck. See you guys soon.